Hello and welcome to another video. So it's been a while since we've checked out much in Shadowverse, other than story content I've been uploading, but with the new expansion we have some new cards, and with new cards we have new decks. So we have Hishki, TCG's Wrathblood. So this small creator, I will have him linked in the description. He had a really nice video breaking down some recommended decks to run for the start of the expansion, and his Wrathblood really called out to me, especially because nearly all the cards in this deck are in the Wrathblood trial deck. So when you returning to the game, or current player, you get a ticket right at the start for one of those trial decks. Highly recommend Wrathblood. Wrathblood's insanely fun, insanely easy to use, not too complicated. You get pretty much everything in here that you could need. You get one Defiler of Destiny, you get one Chimera, and I can't quite remember whether it was one Diablos or one Rogue, but you do get one of these two. I think it might be the Diablos, which makes it an insanely good value as far as the legendaries, because you're running them. Otherwise, I would recommend just making temporary vial versions of some of these as well. That's the other way to go, of course. It'll trim your cost down immensely, since you only realistically need to get two Chimera. One you can get with the temp vials, same with Rogue, you can get one from there from temp vials. This Yor is actually a Diablos as well, you can get that at temp vial, and then the Elena at temp vial. And then that means you've got all of the legendaries for the deck at that point, pretty much. You only have to make one Chaotic Chimera from vials, and then it's just some golds and bits and pieces otherwise. Again, a lot of these come in the trial deck. I believe How to Train Your Bet is in the trial deck. Garnet Waltz is in the trial. Actually, maybe that one wasn't in the trial deck. I think I had to make that. But either way, everything else is pretty fucking affordable. There's literally only 3 golds in the deck. Very easy. Most of them are trial deck, so that's pretty good. A lot of these bronze and silvers are also trial deck. Again, super affordable. Highly recommended if you're just getting back into the game, as it's very easy to do. It's not hard at all. So we're going to get into some gameplay now, and we'll check it out. Alrighty. So we'll take this first game. First game I played against Portal. Portal is usually a pretty awful matchup for this deck. In particular, the Artifact Portal variant seemed to be quite a struggle, but not impossible. So it's not completely out of the realm of playability. Your ideal mulligan is you're looking for low cards. So you want to start with things like Harmonic Wolf, Phil's Disciple, ideally Beast Tamer. If you can get Beast Tamer early, you can make some really nice plays early on, which is great. So we obviously started here with Harmonic Wolves. Being able to play both of them out along with our other early 1-drop is ideal. We don't have much else in our hand though, which was a bit disappointing. Chaotic Chimera is great, but you can't start fusing to it until you have Wrath. That's one of your main kill cards, because there's heaps of board wipe removal in this deck. Chaotic Chimera, Diablos, the Dark Temptresses are all removal that are extremely solid and do a really nice job. Also Rogue. Rogue is also a removal card effectively, so it's always really nice. Again, here you see Beast Tamer is great, because Beast Tamer allows you to just cycle a card, basically. You get to play it, you get a Serpent, you can either use that Serpent for a Chaotic Chimera fusion, or you can play that Serpent if you're early game for the extra Wrath proc that you want for damaging yourself. You basically are rushing that 7 Wrath, so that by turn 4, turn 5, it's fully active, and you can just kind of steamroll from here. It does get pretty hard, I will admit. Like, these couple of games I'm showcasing were some of the longer games, mainly because if you get taken into the late game, it can be really hard to you have to keep board wiping and making sure you're out of lethal ranges, which a lot of these decks will put you in. So far, the only 2 decks that I've really had a decent amount of issue with outside of Artifact Portal, though, have been Machina Blood. Machina Blood, sorry, which is a pain. And, fuck. What was it? I honestly am blanking on what it was called now. I don't think it was Naturia Dragon. I think that's an okay matchup, actually. What was the other one? Oh, Forest. Latica Forest. Latica Forest sucks if you end up playing against it, because it can just fully OTK you, and there's not much else you can do about it. which sucks. But hey, this deck works wonders. I mean, I got a 8 win streak with it, no issue. Currently, I think as of this recording, I am 12 to 10, I believe, 12 to 10. So a little bit over a 50% win rate so far. And I'm still learning the deck as we go, so it's not too bad. So here I was setting up for the double Chimera play because I wanted to finish them here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, I don't think. I don't think I got lucky enough with my draw here. If I had have drawn into a snipe here, I would have full killed them without any issue. But I didn't get that lucky, so we just kind of set up some wards and set up some healing and passed. Because Demon Dice here is a very fun and nice card, which will heal you quite a bit if you play it correctly. It's also just a solid early game card because it's a 3-2 with a good body. I wouldn't be surprised if this deck ends up being meta relevant, if that ends up being nerfed. But this caused the game to run quite a bit because now I'm on the back burner here. I'm way behind on board state and I need to take the win, which is very hard to do from this position. I needed to get really lucky with some of these draws and just hope that they couldn't get lethal on me at any point here. Because we're basically just trading board wipes. So we're trying to set up for our next hopeful turn where we might be able to Chimera Diablos for game with Snipe. If we get lucky. They ended up going for the Baphomet, which is really sucky to remove. I was a little concerned with that second Baphomet that we saw. If they had have went for that, I think I could have been in more trouble next turn. Fortunately, we avoid that though. We managed to wipe out the board with this, excluding the one that can't take more than 3 damage, so we end up sniping it away for the most part here. And then I end up just striking into it. It does heal them for 2, which absolutely sucks, and I wish I didn't have to do, but I couldn't think of another way out of it. But we were that close to being able to drop Elena. Elena actually comes in clutch in these late games, as you're going to see, where you want to be able to get that 10 damage hit out of her, which is insane good value. I was initially running 3 Diabolos and 3... what was the other card? 3 Rogue, but I noticed that I was drawing them a lot and not really using them. So I decided to include 2 Elenia, because it's just solid. She's just a solid card. I never felt like she's bad at this point to have in my hand. You're not always playing her, of course. She's not like an instant play, but she's one of those cards, like, if you're in the early to mid game and you want to get an early Urias, it's really good. And if you're in the late game, her 10 damage is really solid. I'm sure as the meta settles though, she'll come in and out of play depending on the deck you use her in, because she has the effect to bring the old leader cards out, so makes them really good. So Defier of Destiny, we go for the play here. It does a nice 10 damage. I already had seen lethal at this point because of Rogue earlier allows me to ping them every time I take damage. So all I have to do from here is play out things that deal damage to me, which fortunately both Diaboloses do, and so does Weapon Tamer. So we're able to play all 3 of those and deal the extra 3 damage we needed to get that 13. And that allowed us to take full game there without any issue. Now onto our second game here. So our second game here was actually against a dragoncraft player. And I was initially expecting Naturia Dragon. But no, we got a little bit of a surprise with this one. This one was a little more interesting. We got basically just a dragon deck. We get to see lots of dragons come out and lots of big dragons at that, which is pretty cool. Not what I was expecting at all. I don't know if this was meta viable at some point when I wasn't really, you know, keeping an eye on the meta or playing super heavily. So it was kind of a surprise to me. I was like, oh, Naturia Dragon's probably going to dominate these early matches because it's a pretty strong deck and it comes as a trial deck. It's probably the second best trial deck, as the Mecha, the Machina Mecha Shadow deck is pretty awful from what I can gather. Looking at other people's opinions on it and just looking at the cards in it, it's just nowhere near the same level of the other 2 decks. So here we're just setting up early Wrath. We're going for those early plays. Weapon Tamer coming in clutch again. Anytime you can get that off early is always good. I also don't mind setting up this... We'll pause here. This amulet here. This amulet here is really solid because this Vampire Cure is actually really nice. Having Strike deal 2 damage to all enemy followers if Wrath is active for you and deal 4 instead as well is really good. And Last Word Restore 4 is just really, really nice advantage to have. But yeah, as you see here, they go for these Dormant Dragons, and I was kind of like, what's this? You know, Dormant Dragon. Not something I'd seen. So I was kind of like, okay, we'll just play around this a little bit. We'll heal ourselves up here with this Dice Devil. We'll get a guaranteed 4 minimum off it. I think we end up rolling pretty decent on it too, actually. Yeah, we hit the 6 roll, taking us back to 16 health, which is a really nice spot to be here. So we end up seeing another one of those amulets come down. By this point, I'm expecting them to proc next turn. So I'm kind of looking for anything valuable that I can make a play with. I decide that I'm just going to go for the Urias. Just straight up, we'll make the Urias play. I don't do this often because there's a lot of investment here to play the Urias. You have to use an Evo point. You've got to be able to play his cards, which cost 1 apiece. You can't just play them. You've got to discard 3 cards because of Horrible Night. Like, it feels like a decent investment card here. But if you can get them all off without the threat of being killed, it's insanely good. It did mean I couldn't lower the cost of my Chimera, which is a little sad. I would have loved to have lowered the cost on the Chimera there, because then I could have board wiped next turn without concern. Like right here, we're basically banking on a draw, because if we don't hit the draw, we're kind of just screwed. We end up hitting the snipe, and we end up hitting the clear in our rogue. Luckily, we had about 3 or 4 different cards that could out us there. As far as good cards we could use, rogue was one of the better options, since it doesn't take an Evo point, and it allows me to just heal and do damage, which is really good. And then we just get to do a couple more damage. Why not, you know? While we're at it, we'll eat the snipe with the Chimera to make it playable next turn. Unfortunately, it did mean we didn't get to play Bloody Claw or Cursed Aura, which is what I really wanted to be able to do. And then, of course, they played their board clear. And I was like, great, sick. Now I have to deal with this. And I'm like, well, we have to go Chimera here. Chimera is our only good choice. Being able to wipe them, draw 3, and heal 6, while also dealing 6 to the leader is insanely nice. Would not be surprised if, you know, again, if this deck for some reason pops off harder than the other decks, that would be a card that could potentially see a nerf. I doubt it, though. I do feel like this deck is decently balanced. Compared to what I've faced so far, I feel like Mecha Blood with its turn 7 kill that's really easy to pull off is just way better as far as aggro decks go. But it does suffer from not dealing with ward, whereas this deck actually doesn't have too much trouble dealing with heavier ward decks. Since most things can just die to non-targeting removal, you know, it's fine. So we get a pretty easy job of just taking stuff out. They then start going for this Relic Dragon, which actually caused me some problems. I was very concerned about dying at a few points here because of Relic Dragon plays. I had to just deal with it. Fortunately, by this point, we have all our Urias cards played. Our hand is decently stacked with cards. We have a couple of decent removals, and we have some fodder cards that we can kind of trade off. This is where I was scared of dying, though. Having them hit me with that 6 and the 4 for 10 damage, leaving me on 3, was very concerning. I just couldn't think of a way out of this that was, you know, beneficial. Rogue was like my only good play, as it is going to heal me since I use the Urias card, so I don't take damage on my turn, so I'm only healing off this and not taking the damage itself. And we don't quite manage to get the board cleared due to that Ward Bane, but we do have Diablos, which, while not a great play, at least threatens lethal. It does bring us to 7 health, and we get to threaten the lethal for the next turn. Because we know we have the Elena, we know they're on 10, and we're going into 10 next turn. So as long as the Elena is playable here, we could win without too much issue. Unfortunately, they don't really do anything substantial, they kind of just pass their turn, which leaves us free to just Elena here. Elena gets our Evo, we hit them for 10, and they die, which is great. This is where the Elenas just come in clutch. When we get stuck in these late games, it's just pretty much an instant kill, especially with Snipe. So again, just looking at the deck, it's extremely solid, it's extremely cheap, it's easy to play. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know how well it's going to perform long term as people figure out the meta, but right now it hits hard, it hits fast, and it's decently consistent. It's also just fun, and I like that. I like when a deck is just fun to play. When something isn't overcomplicated, but has enough intricacies that you can enjoy it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I will be back with more content very, very soon. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you then.